I can't see shit with these things. I can't even see out the windows. I barely see my monitors. These things are way darker than I hoped. I can see like the outlines of my hands. I bought these because I wanted to be like, hey, this is probably something that someone who is used to, the Underdark would have to wear. And when they come out to the surface, think about like Drow or maybe Damkir with, their sunlight weakness. Or not really a weakness, but more of it's a serious bother to them. So since everything's just so bright, they have to wear something that dulls the light. So this is what they would wear. Huh. But I can't see shit. Right. On to the video. So, what is today's video? Today's video is about, well, monsters. But not only monsters, it's a Dungeon Master's exercise. So, let's get started. Whew! So what we want to do is we want to go through and describe each monster. You grab any monster manual. Does not matter the edition. Does not matter the play it's from. Is it from Pathfinder? Is it from Dungeons & Dragons? Is it from this Fate system? Is it from this? Is it from that? Does not matter. It matters little. Why does it matter little? Well, the reason is because what we're going to do with it. While I find something that I want to talk about. So, essentially, when it comes down to it, this exercise is you grab a monster manual, you grab a monster, and then you describe the monster. You describe what you're talking about. The reason being is that when you're playing Dungeons & Dragons, especially if you're online, you have to describe the creature more than you normally would. You have to go in much more detail and animate it more. And the more you do this, and without going over the top, of course, it makes it that much more imaginable and immersive to your players. They are able to see it in their mind's eye and feel like that they're truly there. So the first one we're starting out with is the Shambling Mound. This guy, I'll describe him as, when he's inert, as this, you first see this just mound of roots and vines just on the ground, all bundled up. The roots sticking into the ground, drinking the nutrients from the soil. Kind of like a stump would be, or tree, bottom of a tree, or shrubbery. Bring me a shrubbery. I have no idea where that cough came from. Destroyed my train of thought. Right. So, when the Shambling Mound emerges, though, when it pulls itself from the soil to defend itself or to attack the players because they did something it didn't like, how would you describe the Shambling Mound? Well, I would describe it as you see the mound of vines and leaves and roots tremble for a moment before they start ripping themselves out of the ground, before it lumbers forward at about 6 to 7 feet tall. Actually, how tall are these things? They're large. They'd probably be like 7 to 8 feet tall. The rotting heap of animated vegetation looms up half again as tall as a human, tapering into a faceless head at its top. Half again as tall as a human. So pretty much tall as a human and a half. I think that's what it's supposed to mean. So, it's tall. It's tall. So how would you describe that, though? So as it starts to lumber up and move towards the players, I describe it as a mass of vines and roots that have gnarled and twisted together to make a solid form, where its head is perhaps a menagerie of leaves that mimic a face, but there's no actual head there. It doesn't really see, but it knows through like the roots in the ground as to where the players are, and it moves towards them with almost an unnatural speed for what you would expect for something that's just nothing but moving wood. Different things like that. You could try describing the slods, which are just ugly. Ugly as sin. Ugly, 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 sin, sin, ugly. What else could you describe? I mean, you just have to go through and choose random creatures that you can. Oh, here, where I just passed it. There it is. The Tarrasque. How would you describe the Tarrasque? Well, it's simple. I would describe it as death. It's death. If you somehow beat the Tarrasque, you're doing it wrong. You don't beat the Tarrasque. The Tarrasque is the end. It is the end. Why? Well, the Tarrasque, legendary, looms over buildings. They are nothing more than a foot to it. It towers over as it stomps, with each step causing earthquakes that shatter the earth beneath it. With each breath, the wind changes direction and fills with heat. And when it wakes, cities fall. The Tarrasque is death. So, but there's plenty of other creatures that you can describe, like spiders. No one likes spiders, but how would you describe a spider that's coming towards the players? I would describe it as a silent stalker. It doesn't really make noise, but when they see it, it slowly and terrifyingly reaches out with its 8 limbs, slowly and silently crawling towards them at first, stalking, its mandibles clenching and pulling apart slowly as if preparing for the meal that it's about to have. Its spiny legs just make it as descriptive and horrifying as possible because it's a fucking spider. No one likes spiders. Displacer beasts or kitty whippins. How would you describe kitty whippins? It's got what, 6 legs? Yeah, it's got 6 legs. So I would describe it as a feline form that has 6 legs, clawed legs on each side, or 3 on each side, with these 2 long tendrils with spikes coming out of its back. Let's see, what's another one? Dragolich, death. Another thing is just death. Dragons. How would you describe a red dragon? That's one thing. How would you describe a red dragon? I would describe a dragon as a towering lizard with wings. But not just that, that each scale is like armor plating that deflects against any strike against it with the coloring of red hot burning embers. And when it breathes, a sulfuric smell fills the air that not only describes the creature itself, but perhaps the effect that it has on the world around it. The smell of the creature, how it looks, how it seems to have this inhuman intelligence to it as it stares at the players. Different things like that. Flame skulls, which are also in here. How would you describe the flame skulls? I would describe them as essentially a spectral image at first that solidifies into a physical skull, and then as it looms there at like shoulder height, it suddenly ignites with this ethereal flame and lets out a cackling laugh as it charges at the players. And don't ever put just one flame skull. Put many flame skulls. Why? Because who doesn't want, a whole bunch of freaking burning skulls flying towards them? I mean, they're each only just a CR4, so if your players are like challenge rating 10, or like all level 10, I guess would be the best thing. I'd say throw like 3 or 6 of them and just have them like charge at the players. And while the players will definitely be able to take them out easily, the fact that they would suddenly be arriving in a mass and perhaps having them explode when they finally hit, their final hit points, or maybe have some of them be kamikaze skulls where they really just fly at the players and explode. Fun things. Mimics. How would you describe a mimic? I would describe it as a chest, or a barrel, or even a ladder. It just looks like a normal ladder. You can't really see where it goes. But there's a ladder. Maybe once they climb up about halfway, that's when the mimic comes to life and snatches them and tries to swallow them whole or wrap them in its form. Mimics are terrifying because they could be anything. And no one likes mimics. But that's the thing. Grab your monster manual. Doesn't matter the edition, doesn't matter what game it's from or whatever. Just grab a monster manual and start describing each creature. don't look at the description of the creature, but more of look at what the creature is and describe it in your own words. The gibbering mouther, for instance, how would you describe that? Well, I describe it as a moving blob of flesh and teeth and maw that makes this guttural, inane noise, gibbering, honestly, just as its name implies, about nothing coherent, and it's just going on and on as it kind of oozes towards the players, trying to wrap any of them in its form and bite at them with its many teeth and mouths. That's how you describe a gibbering mouther. Now, you can certainly find your own ways of describing each creature, but that's the point of this exercise, is finding a creature, describing it, making it seem real to your player's mind, so that way they can better imagine what they're going against, and perhaps truly understand the destruction that they're about to meet when they face something as terrifying as a Dragolich, or the Tarrasque, or even just a normal Lich. Because by doing that, it makes this feeling of fear build up inside them. And not only that, it's the immersion. Anyways, I think that'll be it for this. Catch you next time.